Welcome back. Today, we are continuing our deep dive into the Joint Contract Administration Manual, or JCAM, by examining Articles 7, 8, 9, and 10. These 4 articles cover the foundational mechanics of daily postal life, how workforce categories are structured, how overtime and work hours are assigned, how pay rates and raises are administered, and how your earned leave is protected. Let's break down each one step by step. Part 1, Article 7, Employee Classifications and Work Assignments. We begin with Article 7, which establishes the structure of the letter carrier workforce and sets strict limits on how management can assign work across employee classifications and craft lines. Article 7 divides the workforce into distinct categories, including full-time regulars, part-time flexibles, or PTF, and city carrier assistants or CCA. It also enforces maximization principles, meaning the Postal Service is contractually obligated to create as many full-time regular positions as possible rather than relying excessively on part-time or non-career labor. Crucially, Article 7 governs cross-craft work assignments. Under normal conditions, management is required to respect craft jurisdiction. Letter carriers carry mail, clerks perform clerk duties, and mail handlers handle heavy mail processing. Management cannot assign city letter carriers to perform work in another craft, or assign other crafts to do city delivery work, unless strict, exceptional criteria are met, such as a severe, unexpected emergency where no qualified employees in the primary craft are available. To see Article 7 in practice, imagine a busy morning at a station where mail sorting is running behind. Instead of calling in off-duty clerks on overtime, a supervisor orders 2 available city letter carriers to spend 3 hours throwing parcels in the clerk craft area. Because there was no true emergency and off-duty clerks were available to be called in, management committed an illegal cross-craft assignment under Article 7. Part 2, Article 8, Hours of Work and Overtime. Next is Article 8, which is one of the most frequently grieved articles in the entire contract. It establishes standard work schedules, overtime distribution rules, penalty pay, and mandatory safety limitations on work hours. Article 8 defines a standard work week for regular full-time carriers as 5 consecutive 8-hour days. When overtime is required, management must follow the Overtime Desired List, or OTDL, system. Carriers who sign up for the OTDL volunteer for overtime, and management is required to distribute overtime hours and opportunities equitably among qualified OTDL carriers on a quarterly basis. Before management can force a non-OTDL carrier to work overtime off their own assignment, they must first maximize all qualified and available OTDL carriers up to 10 or 12 hours. Article 8 also enforces strict upper limits on total work hours. Under standard rules, no employee may be required to work more than 12 hours in a single service day, which equals 11.5 hours of work plus a 30-minute unpaid meal break, or more than 60 total hours in a service week. Once a carrier hits these 12-hour daily or 60-hour weekly ceilings, they have an absolute contractual right to stop working, clock out, and go home without fear of discipline. To illustrate Article 8, suppose an office has 2 routes that need extra coverage. Management orders a carrier who is not on the overtime desired list to carry an hour of overtime on a neighboring route, even though an OTDL carrier in the building was available and had only worked 8 hours that day. This is an improper mandate under Article 8 because management failed to utilize the available OTDL carrier first. Part 3, Article 9, Salaries and Wages. Moving to Article 9, this section details your compensation, wage progression, general salary increases, cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, and step advances. Article 9 outlines the exact pay tables for all city letter carrier classifications. It protects your base salary and mandates guaranteed general wage increases negotiated during national contract bargaining. Additionally, Article 9 incorporates semi-annual cost of living adjustments tied to national inflation measurements from the Consumer Price Index. When inflation rises, COLAs are automatically added to career pay scales to protect carrier purchasing power. Article 9 also dictates the time and step rules, establishing how many weeks a carrier must serve at a specific step before automatically advancing to the next pay tier until reaching the top step of the salary structure. For a real-world example of Article 9, suppose a career letter carrier reaches the exact calendar milestone required to advance from Step D to Step E due to an administrative error in management's payroll processing. The carrier's pay stub continues to reflect the lower Step D pay rate for 3 consecutive pay periods. Under Article 9, the carrier is contractually entitled to an immediate adjustment and retroactive back pay for all uncompensated hours at the correct higher step rate. Part 4, Article 10 Leave. Finally, we examine Article 10, which governs your rights regarding annual leave, sick leave, choice vacation periods, leave without pay, and overall leave administration. Article 10 guarantees that city letter carriers earn and accrue annual leave and sick leave based on their continuous years of service. It establishes that local leave procedures, such as how many carriers can be off on vacation during choice summer months, are negotiated locally through local Memorandum of Understanding negotiations, but are legally protected at the national level. Article 10, combined with postal operating handbooks, sets strict rules on sick leave administration. For sick leave absences of 3 consecutive scheduled workdays or fewer, an employee's own statement explaining the absence is normally acceptable. Management cannot automatically demand official medical documentation or a doctor's note for absences of 3 days or less unless the employee has been formally placed on restricted sick leave or management has a legitimate, articulable reason to suspect leave abuse. To see Article 10 in action, imagine a letter carrier calls in sick for a single day due to a seasonal flu. Upon returning to work the next morning, the supervisor tells the carrier, "I won't approve your sick leave unless you provide a doctor's note by tomorrow." Because the absence was under 3 days and the carrier was not on restricted sick leave, the supervisor's blanket demand for medical documentation violates Article 10 and standard postal leave regulations. Conclusion. In summary, Articles 7 through 10 establish the day-to-day ground rules of postal employment. Article 7 protects craft work boundaries and workforce structure. Article 8 ensures fair overtime distribution and enforces strict safety limits on work hours. Article 9 guarantees accurate wage rates, COLAs, and progression steps. And Article 10 protects your hard-earned leave and rest time. Thank you for watching. As always, consult your local shop steward or the JCAM for specific grievance applications at your station. Make sure you stay safe, hydrate, and you work at a pace you feel is safe.